All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Worldscope Mundane Astrology discussion. Well, today we have Grace join us, Anna, Maria, Fernando, Luisa, Liz, and maybe Mark will join us later. Well, unfortunately, Lian is a little bit under the weather, so she will not join us. So I will taking over about this lunar eclipse. Hello, Jolie. So happy to see you. So, well, had lots of going on. We all agree, like around at least like from even before the lunar eclipse, and we have like Saturn move back to Pisces, and we have Uranus stationary, and also nearly same time, if you use declination, Pluto is out of bond, and that is like also the crazy things comes up, and well, it's like we are expecting something, but we couldn't imagine like the volume of it is like a wow. Like we have like a Nepal have a Gen Z protest and the prime minister stepped down. Japanese prime minister stepped down. French prime minister stepped down. And the UK, we have our deputy prime minister stepped down. So that was like a whole sort of thing. So today we are going to cover all this. I wish we will have like a very successful discussion. So first, I want to show everyone about the this lunar eclipse chart. Now here, use this one. I use Poland because recently on Monday we have like a shocking news in Europe. Is like um, just around the lunar eclipse that the during the drone attack to Ukraine, Russian drone was like kind of a invade the Poland's airspace, and then they shut it down. So it there is a concern because it's part of a NATO and the EU things. So you can see that kind of increased tension. We may not going to say that's war, but that is a kind of a nearly there. That is like if any accident happened, that would be a little bit worry everyone. So this lunar eclipse chart is pretty interesting. First, we have lunar eclipse happen at the 15-degree Pisces and opposite Sun in the 15-degree Virgo. And well, what concerns me is the fixed star. Here we have two fixed star, Arcana from the Eridanus, the river one, and that is kind of a that fixed star has a meaning about a sudden change and the shocking things. Another one is Anka from Phoenix. So that is kind of firebirds, but a rebirth. So there's a positive meaning there. Even there's something, sudden change or disaster, maybe we can build up things. But striking me is this chart in Warsaw. We have the Mars very nearly descended. We have Mars very nearly descended. And that is kind of, a bit suggests that the trouble is on the way. And if we compare this chart with the 1989, I know some people use other chart, but I use this after the Soviet Union dissolved. So in this chart, it's quite interesting. There's a Mercury on the lunar eclipse. The Mercury is right on the Poland's Mars. And the MC is very near the Poland, Saturn, and the Neptune. To be honest, that means that is kind of a something because Saturn Neptune conjunction for next year is something worth us to pay attention to. So this is the quick sit in Poland because we have so many things to talk about. I don't know if anyone want to make comment about both chart. If not, I will hand it to Nando because Nando just sent in the Naples chart. And we all know because, okay, let me give a quick background. Yes, Luisa?
Just Nepal.
Yes.
I heard here some military people saying that they feel there is a 70% possibility of not being an attack at all, just a spying mission that went slightly off course. and then they showed a number of things that I don't even pretend to understand.
Okay.
But the Mercury there, meaning,
Yes.
okay, it
Yeah.
was meant to be something as information gathering
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
astray. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Louisa. Thank you so much. I think,
Otherwise, I didn't understand a thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Hello, Anna. Yes.
Yes, I have already realized that Mercury is the contransition of Mars.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, okay.
yes, and it's lunar eclipse, all the topics related with Mercury, not only information, ministers,
Mm-hmm.
young people, etc., had been in the paramount. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you. So, okay. Hello, Nando. Are you ready? Do we have
Hello,
Nando? Nando.
everyone. I
Yeah,
have to.
Nando, I couldn't see you.
Huh? Here.
I could hear you. Okay, thank you.
Hello,
Okay.
everyone. Yeah. Oh, you have the chart, okay? Right? Yeah, we have this chart. And
Yeah.
I just, as you mentioned, I just calculated that's the lunar chart as well, just to see the double. I sent you, I think,
Here. Here.
yeah, this is for the next one, right? September 21st. But we can see that the lunar eclipse also was in this axis of Pisces and Virgo. It's going to be a little bit. And so I thought it was worthy to take note of this chart today because it's something that is unfolding, and our next meeting probably is going to be after the solar eclipse. So just to watch. So this was this chart I got from the Nicholas Campions. So it's even have like a time. So we have this the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse axis uh, in the sixth house falling. It falls in the sixth house, and the lunar eclipse was the 12th and sixth house. So it does this pressure that sometimes we notice about protests that comes. It's very Iranian, and it's also has to do when we see, like, if it starts with the generation students or young people, we can see also Mercury. But when it happens about in around the 12th house, we can see that it's something that has been cooking for a long time. I have noticed that, at least looking at Brazil's nation, the 12th house cook. Sometimes we don't see right after that. So we can see that slowly Mars is approaching the nation's Uranus, that is to Mercury in the seventh house. So probably we are going to see more of this later on, and probably in the seventh house, it's always connected to foreigners, either like countries that support the government or countries that support the cause of the protests. Let me just take a look here. It says that apparently what sparked the protests was the government sudden ban of 26 major social media platforms like Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, YouTube, for failing to register under new regulation rules. And many of the Generation Z people or folks saw this as censorship and an attack on their freedom. So, of course, as we see the 12th house involved, there is also deeper issues underlying, like widespread frustration with political corruption and nepotism, economic hardship, lack of job opportunities, visible inequality, like the way they call Nepo baby, privileged children. It is very similar what happened. I don't know if it was this year Or last year we talked about Bangladesh. Remember that
Mhm.
the prime minister, the lady, first lady, she has to she flew, she went into exile. It's very so the protest began around September 8th, and these young people in Kathmandu, they spread it to other cities. The demonstration escalated because they tried to storm parliament, and they were clashing with police, tear gas, rubber bullet. They're very dangerous also because a lot of people, if gas on their face, they go blind because, water cannons. So it start also having arsonists, vandalizing the government building, residence of political figure. So at least for what I was able to be informed, there was 19 people died in the early clashes, with those injured. I think they are. I just saw the are they chose another government person, a lady, if I'm not mistaken, to be overlooking this case that brought attention to the whole world. So if you see that, the natal chart has this the natal mundane nations, it has Mars is very prominent, right? Because it rules the ascendant. It's in the 10th house, very exalted in Capricorn. Now they just have an opposition of Mars in Libra to the ascendant. And now Mars is going to touch Uranus. Sometimes we see that, as a new Uranus, as new ruler of Aquarius. So 11th house, and the parliament is going to be touched. And you see NATO, NATO Mercury, the students, the students and the youth is on the 11th house with at the time of the chart was cast. So it's going to be ongoing. I will be monitoring because I'm very interested in it. So maybe next time we have something else to say. But I will also be posting on our Facebook group and websites what develops. But I think it's very interesting to know.
Yes.
And, you see like Neptune transiting retrogrades is right on top of Venus.
Yeah.
That rules the 7th house. So and when I put the three charts together, this mundane nations chart with solar eclipse and lunar eclipse, that 12th house is packed of planet. And this is dangerous because it's an invisible pressure cooking pan. That's my metaphor, so
Thank you.
anything, everything, and nothing can happen at once. So
Yeah.
right, because we don't see clearly, but the pressure is there. So I think for any country, NATO 12th house planets, it's a problem per se. But when there are transits, or especially new moons or eclipses. So that's
Thank
it
you.
for now.
Julie,
Thank you.
yes.
I just wanted to add really quickly. So the name of the interim prime minister now is Sushila Karki. She is actually the ex-chief Supreme Court justice, and I see her as Jupiter in the 4th house, ruling the 9th and the 11th. And I think it's so fascinating because she was actually elected to be interim prime minister on Discord by the student protesters. And sometimes people call the 11th house, social networks. So Discord, social networks. And there you have Jupiter representing or symbolizing Sushila Karki coming into power because she is the one that they trust in terms of leading the country for now. So that symbolism seems very strong right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good point. Thank you.
Okay, well, because we really don't have much time, but we have so many things to discuss. If there's no any other comment to add it, I will add it to the most recent one. Well, suggested by Louisa, and Louisa sent in the Charlie Kirk's chart because it was yesterday, right? And in Utah University, and this Charlie Kirk, the right-wing activist, has been shot dead. Is a shocking news, to be honest. No matter you are left-wing or right-wing, we all disagree with the violence because once you start, that would never end. That would never end. Louisa, your microphone is mute.
He shocked everyone 2 years ago when he declared that a couple of people dying, and he said he didn't say a couple of people, but it's some people dying. It's a small price to pay for keeping the Second Amendment. And this was extremely shocking because it was after a Nashville shooting. I mean, there are shootings all the time. A Nashville shooting where 3 kids and 3 adults were shot in front of a Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he said. And now they have arrested a white boy, 22 years old, and they have arrested him. So we won't know exactly what motivated him, if he was connected with some victims of other shootings and it was a revenge killing or something,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah, what surprised me is the lunar eclipse charts. Mars is right on his sun.
Absolutely.
And then, that was like kind of a pretty scary. Also, I mean, yes,
and
because
it moves slowly, it's still there on the solar eclipse.
solar, yeah,
Where
and
the solar eclipse falls exactly on Venus.
Yeah, we have this one.
Exactly of Venus. And Venus is the ruler of the sun, of the Jupiter, moon. I mean, if it's a noon chart, I personally, I'm pretty sure the way he speaks and how he preaches, that he has probably the ascendant in Sagittarius. I didn't rectify anymore, but it looks that it must be around noon because he is very Sagittarian in nature, the way he speaks. He preaches.
Yeah, he is very popular on social media, to be honest. What I heard, because when the news comes out, we are unaware about who he is. And one of our friends, a relative, just send us messages. Is that in UK? No, it's in US. After, how do you know him? Jolie, if you want to make any comment?
I did want to point out that I find it really interesting that you have countries outside of America commemorating or memorializing or eulogizing Charlie Kirk when probably many of the population didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
So to hear the Prime Minister of the UK making a statement, to have the European Union hold a minute silence, for Charlie Kirk. This seems very strange to me, and I do feel like it's not wholly organic, the wave of interest and attention that this particular, very tragic death has garnered. I just think it's a little bit strange, and I'm wondering if that's not actually tied to the total lunar eclipse, because that was on the north node. So we would expect something shadowy to be coming forth.
Thank you, Julie. Yes, Liz.
Yeah, I'm just thinking as well that he's one of the Uranus-Neptune conjunction generation. So he's born in 93. So he is like the first generation really that is growing up with the web, with the internet as part of day to day. And in terms of the events like this one that's just happened, the role of social media and the internet is huge. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed comments among American astrologers.
Yes.
I mean, they are getting, trolls, they are getting, do you know what I mean? The level of abuse that is flying around, also among astrologers who comment on such events.
Yeah.
It shows that this conjunction here, this sort of start, which was really kicking off the first real internet, the possibilities to go on the web as individuals. It was just starting to come through. And you
Yeah.
can see it, a kind of a manifestation of one aspect of it in the life of this guy, because he was obviously, social media. He was an
Mhm.
influencer, that was his
Yeah.
thing. And with all the dangers that accompany that, it seems, as well.
It's very interesting because I use the White House as the place for this solar eclipse chart. We have MC on the 14-degree. Scorpio is right on, very close to his Mars, and the Mercury, and the ascendant is also very close to this. Liz just mentioned the Uranus-Neptune conjunction, and again, if we go to see lunar eclipse, similar.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have the ascendant again on this Mercury. So, and he is the outspoken activist. Okay, and that Mercury really show us up in this chart. So, well, I to be honest, I was shocking, and also, I mean, this level of violence is definitely, if it's going to spread out, it's not good for everyone. It's not good for everyone, to be honest.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's terrible because now he's a martyr.
Yes.
He's a
Yes.
martyr. And martyrs, like the saints that Annie is going to talk about, can be copied. I 2 hours ago, I talked to my son who builds Montessori schools for a foundation. And yesterday, in areas where people can't pay, they are free schools. And one parent just stepped on the lawn of a neighbor of a school in Texas, and that neighbor came out with a shotgun. Didn't shoot, but came out saying, "Don't step on my lawn." And this is a parent taking a toddler to school. It's a preschool.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. That is scary.
I think we see in that Mercury, Mars in Scorpio, the potential for the martyr, the violent martyr, and the violence to expand. Because you have the MC over there.
Yeah. Also, I'm quite curious about, I know some debate that Sibley chart should be used or not, but it is what I usually to use it. But we have at this moment, when we look this one, it's not really stand out, but we have the Jupiter is pretty close to that Mercury. Again, the theme of Mercury is keep showing off, but when you see next one, the coming up eclipse is right on Jubilee. It's simply just MC, right? Very close. Well, I don't know. Any comment? It sounds like the MC, the leader, maybe going to face some challenge. I like to say the word. Yeah.
Isn't it remarkable, though, as well, that, Donald Trump himself, there was a pot taken at him, from a rooftop.
Yes.
I mean, why aren't they looking at rooftops? I mean,
okay, yes.
I mean, are you serious? I mean, look, we come out, you live in the UK, Rod, I'm from the UK.
Yeah.
And, things like this are policed. Do you know what I mean? The rooftops, in the UK, any big event, you'll see it when Donald Trump visits now next week. All of the roofs, all of the buildings that are on the route, you've got no chance, of getting shot in. So it's just remarkable that it's a similar a successful assassination.
Yeah.
So either they remove them for this to happen, or they believe that it was in their territory, so nothing would happen.
It's just weird, you know.
Yeah.
That Mars in Gemini aerial attack
Yeah. Oh dear.
from above.
Yes. Yeah. Well, as also, the Pluto in the Aquarius, also the something from the higher place that is worrying us. Yeah. Well, if not, let's move a little bit very quickly to Gaza. I know we keep saying we should have a deep discussion about Gaza. I think we probably have to find a time and dedicate a special episode to Palestine and Gaza, because there's so many things to talk about. I know today we are going to talk about another part, like support Palestine in UK things, but it is very interesting because when you see this chart, you just like ouch, because think around just even before the lunar eclipse, the Israel just like us, it's kind of have a more military action. It's a kind of nearly going to taking whole control of the Gaza, and then also on the just before the lunar eclipse, they attack Qatar, right? They kind of fire over the airspace, and the Qatar, they announced they kill the leader of a few member of Hamas from there. That is kind of shocking, to be honest. I mean, mess up with with Qatar. That is, really stirred up the regional peace. I mean, and you can see the lunar eclipse is right on Hamas chart. I remember this chart. Maybe it's Louisa or Lisa, just this charter, right? Charter's noon chart, and it's right on the lunar node,
Interesting.
and that is pretty striking. And then for the Jupiter, Uranus is coming up to the Jupiter, I think. So this is one thing. And then if we move to the solar eclipse, but we have solar eclipse on the sun moon midpoint. However, if we don't know is that noon chart, we use the noon chart, but we don't know exact time. But the Mars is nearby. There. So unfortunately, we have to say it's not going to settle down very quickly. No, I think we all agree this. So we have so many things to discuss. So I'm just like stick to the chart do very quickly. Now I'm going to hand over to Maria. I hope Maria is ready, because at the same time, let me stop share. At the same time, an election happened in Buenos Aires, right? Sorry. Oh, I forget to say Maria.
Midterms.
Midterm,
Yes, I don't
yes.
have a. I don't. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So,
yes.
no worries.
Okay.
No worries.
Okay.
So what is unique about this is that midterm elections are held for the central government and all the provinces, but this time Buenos Aires has 30% of the population of the whole country. So it's really a very important election. It decided to have the election instead of in October, on the day of the eclipse. That's why I wanted to share that.
Please.
On September.
The government decided?
No, the governor of Buenos Aires is of the opposite party to the government, to the national government.
So he decided to have it on this day.
Yeah. Yes, he decided to have that on the day of the eclipse, and in a way to have more power over the president, because the president has almost no representation in Congress. So he's in a very weak position in that sense. So this is very fast because I know we have little time. But let me give you some context.
Yes,
this
please.
Is the chart. This is the chart for Argentina. The eclipse, as you can see, happened right on the 6-12 axis. Then I always like, as you know, Rod, I always like to begin with the conjunction, because this conjunction was Jupiter-Saturn was so radical in it, bringing a lot of change. And also in the chart for Argentina, we have that the ruler of the ascendant is Mars which is in square to the conjunction and in the first house. And what happened in Argentina was that completely unexpectedly, a very angry young man became president without even having a political party. So this was really this chart expresses what happened really in a very strong way. Now, when this is the Ingress chart for this year, and I took, you can see how the ruler of the 10th is in its detriment in the 4th. So this is like, if I cite Bonatti, like falling captive to the enemy, you know? And this is a very strong testimony against winning that election, at least the one in Buenos Aires. And notice the degree of the ascendant. On September the 7th, we have the eclipse on that, on those degrees. Okay, so I thought this was really fascinating. So if we have a look at the conjunction and the Aries Ingress, we see how this 6 or 7 degrees of Sagittarius are emphasized, and keep them in mind because we're going to go back to those, okay? Also how the Saturn is very, and Neptune very near the moon of the conjunction. And this is important because what the new president did was a very strong adjustment of public spending. And that meant people came out of poverty, but also there's very little money to go about, you know. So there is a sense of a very strong restriction in the air, and that is not always easy for elections. Okay, well, this is what I was talking about. And on the day of this midterm elections, only for one of the provinces, but the one that has 30% of the population and the richest province of all. So the government of that province is very, very powerful. This is the Aries Ingress. These were midterm elections to elect, what do you call them? Senators and, okay, an 11-house theme. So we have this degree ascending, okay, on the moment of the lunar eclipse, we had Mars on the midheaven. During the elections, there was some sort of fraud because the page where you registered to vote stopped working for a couple of hours. So that was, I thought this is typical of eclipses, you know, something is hidden. Maybe it was on purpose or maybe it wasn't. We don't know about that. But on the moment that the results were announced, we have this degree on the ascendant, on the midheaven, 17 Capricorn, which is the degree where we have the cusp of the 11th in the Aries Ingress chart. And also we have, okay, this degree is very important, showing that the opposition, this is the governor of Buenos Aires, was very, very strong. We have Jupiter there, and the ruler of the 10th is very weak, retrograde in the 12th. So this is very consistent with the fact that the party of the president lost, and the party of the governor of Buenos Aires won. But what was really shocking is that everybody was expecting that result for a difference of 2 or 3 points, and he lost for 13 points. The president's party lost for 13 points. So that was completely unexpected and what was promised in the Ingress chart became very powerful on the day of the eclipse, and the eclipse happened on that angle. And okay, so you can see how the eclipse fits into the Aries Ingress. It's really impressive. And now we're going to have midterm elections on a national level, not for Buenos Aires, but for the rest of the country in October, on October the 26th. And there's a solar eclipse before that, that election. And this solar eclipse has this degree on the midheaven. Remember that I mentioned this is the degree where we had Venus in the conjunction chart, where we have the moon in the ingress chart. So this is important. And I'm going to make a very short parenthesis to say that one of the reasons that it is thought that the president had such a bad election is because of a corruption case related to his sister. Okay? Okay. So in this case, we see that for this eclipse chart, the ruler of the 10th, this time, the ruler of the 10th is very strong. So there could be an expectation of maybe not having such a bad result as it had in the previous election. And okay, this is what I was telling you about, that Venus on the conjunction chart, which is in the same degree as the moon, which is in the same degree as the MC, and the reason for the president losing so much power was related to his sister. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, and that's it. This is the moment. I'm sorry, what is this? I don't remember. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. This is the moment this is the Libra ingress chart. And in the Libra ingress chart before the elections, we have a fixed sign on the midheaven, and the ruler of the midheaven is very, very strong. Okay, the nodes will still be in the same degree as the eclipse. So I think that he will be able to get a better result in October than he did in last week, last Sunday. And this is me.
Thank you, Malia. Always appreciate your presentation, and they are so beautifully done. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any comment about Malia's especially related to Argentina? If not, okay. Well, I will hand it to Liz and Mark. Mark, I have your presentation. So how about let's Liz start. Mark, you have because when you sent it to me, I was prepared for my for my presentation. So how about Liz, you start, and then Mark will talk about the UK chart, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to dive in and share my screen if I can.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, so let's move right up here. So I too am going to start with the UK chart because it's my home country, right? So I'm always interested in the politics there. And one of the themes that seems to be, for me as an expat living abroad, that I'm picking up on a lot in the UK is this whole idea of freedom of speech. And it's kind of a strange thing when you kind of look at the Mercury in the UK chart, right? It rules the 9th. And one of the things you could say about the English language is that it has travelled, right? It's the lingua franca of the world, and here it is in Sag. And if we think about the lunar eclipse that's just taken place, as we've just been looking at, it's in those mutable degrees. And of course, it picks up on Mercury in the UK chart. Mercury also rules the 9th house, so we're looking at legal things, and there's a lot of legal challenges seem to be taking place at the moment around this idea, particularly of freedom of speech. And it's been picked up on in the US as well. You know, we've got people like Elon Musk and all kinds of people speaking out about, you know, the kind of lack of the suppression of free speech and etc. in the UK. But all of the kind of legal agreements that get crafted in the UK and that use English as the language are actually suffering from the fact that Mercury is, of course, in detriment in the chart, because the English language is very ambiguous. It can be read in many ways. So to give a classic example of ambiguity in an English worded document, you could look at the Balfour Agreement, right, which is what divided up the Middle East at the end of the war, the First World War. So it's extremely vague. It has lovely terms in it, like it talks about the national home, you know, the national home for the people living there, without defining any kind of political status. for the people of Palestine. So it also is contradictory because it also supported a Jewish national home without actually stipulating anything. So these things sound kind of good on paper, but when you start to dig down into agreements that have made and been written up in English and English law in general, why there's a lot of discussion about it and why things are continually going back into the legal process, I think, is because of the wording and because of the ambiguity of the language itself. So that Mercury and Sag, in one way, as I said, it's made our language travel the world. I don't have a national language of my own. Let's face it, everyone speaks English, really. But it's also got a lot of problems around it. So at the moment, we've got Uranus as well coming up here around the 9th house. And it's trine in Uranus. And, you know, Uranus is in the 12th house in the UK chart. So there's a little picture here, which picking up, I think, on what Louise has said, it actually says, don't walk on the grass. So people in the UK don't actually have a lot of freedom, not really. There's lots of strange unspoken rules, you know, like the queues and all kinds of things. So we have a very suppressed idea of freedom actually in the UK. So most of the land is owned privately, you know, you can't ramble there. There's a big fight going on at the moment as well for the right to roam, for people to actually, you know, because I think 70 or 80% of land is in private hands. So yeah, that Uranus is squaring Pluto. So it's bringing up issues, you could say, 5th house issues, which are about, you know, among other things, let's be honest, it's about self-expression and personal freedom as well. And as I said, this lunar eclipse that we've just had, which was falling across this axis, was really picking up 12th house, which is the idea of prison, right? Putting people behind bars. And it's also focusing on the 6th house, which in the UK is pointing to the police force. And you can imagine that a police force in London being faced with the kinds of massive demonstrations it's been dealing with around the Palestine Action Group, with 800 or 900 arrests on a day. Managing that is putting an enormous amount of pressure on this area of the chart, which it's been there for a while, which is why Keir Starmer started letting prisoners out early. But this Palestine action, recent Palestine action, really brought it to the foreground in a big way. And again, the Aries Ingress ascendant actually as well for the UK was at 1618 Gemini, so opposite this Mercury. So yeah, there was a lot happening around the 9th house, 12th house, and the 3rd house, freedom of speech. So yeah, this is the first Uranus-Pluto square actually that UK is having as well. So originally the conjunction was in 2003, 2004, and worldwide there was a lot of things like a Patriot Act in the UK, in the US, around what people, you know, policing of people, you know, what like arrest and being able to put people in prison with very real, very little evidence, just suspicion was almost enough. So the outer ring here is that actual demo, and it's a time chart because the demo started at 12 noon in London. So you can see here the midheaven of the Palestine Action Group demo is bang on that eclipse that we're going to have just a day later. The moon here is in the 5th, which is, as well as said, is a lot of it is about personal freedom. And what I think is really interesting is Mars ruling the 7th, right? So this could be, you know, the opposition actually, yeah, the kind of your enemy, shall we say. But Mars is in Libra, so the emphasis here was very much on peaceful protest, very much. So that's the actual eclipse there, as you know, in a bi-wheel. Yeah, and that whole idea of peaceful process is what has made it extremely difficult actually for the police as well. So we had 890 people arrested, which is, you know, for the Metropolitan Police, that's a lot of people to deal with. And the majority of them were for, you know, acts were against the prescribed the Terrorism Act, which I think there were many, when I started dipping into it, I realized since 1939, the UK has been, you know, drawing up terrorism acts, mainly because of the violence in Northern Ireland, and they just keep rewriting them and adding things and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, so this is a few, these are from a friend of mine who was at the demo. So you've got people, you know, with their dog there saying, you know, I support Palestine action. So, you know, are we going to start arresting dogs or like this guy, does the holding of this thought make me the Al Qaeda of mine? So this, I think, is a great one because it's showing, in a way, the British humour as well. This is just so patently ridiculous what's happening. Banksy got himself involved here. This was a Banksy mural that turned up on at the courts in London, pointing out that Palestine Action is not the violent party here. It's the way the law is being enforced against people who are actually making legitimate protests against, because Palestine Action, really, they are, protesting against companies, for example, in the UK that are supplying arms or making arms parts that are being sent, to kill people in Palestine, basically. So it was they pulled out some cleaning squad and removed the mural almost immediately, And if you think that a mural of Banksy is worth an absolute fortune, I mean, it's insane in itself, really, how far the government is going to suppress this freedom of speech at the moment. So this is a time chart as well, where you can see Uranus up here on the 9th. This was the actual time of the debate, which followed on from those protests, because it's becoming more and more apparent with Saturn and Neptune both in the UK 6th house as well, that the state apparatus with regard to dealing with this level of protest is unsustainable. And what I think is really interesting is like the kind of language that the police are using themselves, so because they are arresting doctors, they are arresting all kinds of people that are involved in the peace movement, elderly people who've survived the Holocaust, people who have, just generally supporters of free speech. So they're having to pick up people in wheelchairs and arrest them. So a police, this thinking Neptune in the 6th, and like the police are saying that they are emotionally and physically exhausted, and that the kind of extra policing that's been demanded of them now in London is not sustainable. That Saturn, Neptune in Aries, right, in the 6th house, the people are suffering from burnout. They can't cope with it. And some officers as well have just been incredibly emotional because they feel, hey, I didn't join the police to be doing this sort of work. One officer, he said it was carnage, and the officers were close to tears, some of them. It's just asking too much. So yeah, this I think is my last slide, or last but one. So yeah, this I think is the founding chart for Palestine Action. It was founded on the 30th of July 2020. Let's see if I can, this is, oops, sorry guys, I've lost you. What's happened there? Right. I'm finding this.
Eclipse.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, so this is the actual chart for the group itself, which, funnily enough, it has Jupiter in Cancer as well. Sorry, this is when it was banned. Sorry, that's when it not banned, but added to the number of groups that are already considered to be terrorist groups in the UK. So supporting Palestine Action now, in the worst case scenario, can put you in jail for up to 14 years. And this is the actual founding chart with Mars in Aries, which is, let's face it, it's quite prepared to act and to act up. It's also kind of a lone wolf signature, Mars in Aries. Uranus is on UK Aries. So it's really pulling in Mercury on the moon there. So this is, in a way, as well, you could say the communication thing, but it's also people's rights, the moon in Cancer, people demanding Mercury here as well with the moon. So I personally think that the law as it stands with regard to Palestine Action, I don't think it's going to be sustainable. So I think Jupiter going retrograde now in the 10th, going back over the moon, taking its time in the 10th house. I think some revision with regard to this law is inevitable. It's not if it happens. It's more a question, I think, of when, because it's just not sustainable. So thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Any comment about the Liz chart? because Mark has a similar things, right? So,
Shall I close stop share, Rod?
yes, if
Yeah.
you like. Okay. So, Julie or Anna, any
I think the
comment?
government tried to defend its position by saying, I mean, the thing that really got them prescribed was because their protesters broke into a Ministry of Defence airfield and actually damaged a couple of jets, basically government army jets. And
Yeah,
the
that's the
government
Mars
was
in
up.
Aries,
That
like,
was
know,
that
yeah.
was the point they said. But I mean, we've got this new quite hardline Home Secretary who herself is historically Shabana Mahood, who said historically she's a strong supporter of the Palestine issue, but she's come out and said, supporting Palestine and supporting a prescribed organization are two entirely different things. So they've taken this very hard line, even though, as you said, I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of the people arrested were about as inoffensive as you could get in terms of although some of them worked, there was a mix in the crowds. I mean, there was people who were masked and hooded, so it was a variety of people, but a lot of them were very inoffensive. And the kind of draconian line the government's taking is kind of
It's
shocked a
just
lot of
creating
people.
more aggro, isn't it? It's just creating more animal, especially as Uranus comes up into the ninth. I think people are really not in the mood to, be silenced at the moment. It feels, Pluto in Aquarius. Let's start there for one, It's that rising up of
Yeah,
the
it's kind of
people.
just part of the whole theme of Britain becoming very politically polarized at the moment. The right as well being equally.
Mark, I think this is a whole world,
I think
not
so as
only
well. It's the
Britain.
same here in the Netherlands, I have to say.
Yeah.
But I
Mark,
just would add, can I just add one thing, Rod, about
yeah,
what you
please.
just said, though, Mark? I agree. But, they do have some success because I just heard, actually, just posted it on Facebook, the Elbit Systems, which is an Israeli weapon company based in Bristol, has just recently closed down. And that is a lot to do with the attacks or the, smearing with paint and all of that stuff. Which Palestine Action have been carrying out on the base there. So they're having some results really, and that's the thing. They are quite successful in a way if you look at it in the round, right?
So, Mark, shall I showing your slides? You ready?
Okay.
Okay, sure. Here we are. We have Mark's slides. So first,
Yeah, I won't over heavily emphasize the transits because I think Liz has already kind of talked about that. I suppose the things we've obviously got this major theme of I think Pluto opposing Jupiter. So that's quite interesting because of wait a minute, where's this? Yes. No, wait a minute. That's the perfectional, that's the wrong one. That's not the one I want up.
oops.
Must be another page. That's it, yeah. So we've got right there. We've got this theme of Pluto opposing Jupiter, and I think that fits into the very toxic kind of climate we've got going on. Of course, Jupiter's natural signification is legal matters and also foreign affairs, and but also in the chart, it's the third house, and that kind of ties into what Liz was talking about freedom of speech and all that kind of issue as well, and how that's become a very kind of a controversial issue in terms of the way the government's applying laws. I think it's also worth saying, though, that the UK government, like some other countries like France, is going through a really grim financial period. I mean, the economy is really tanking at the moment. It really is struggling. It's had all kinds of bad indicators, and the gilts are costing more for the UK economy. The chancellor has had lots of reverses on what her original plans were. She said originally the economy could grow by just generate growth, and now it's pretty clear we're facing a pretty heavy a budget at the end. They've now stuck it to the end of November, but there's going to be a tax raising budget, which is not obviously going to go down well with the public. When you tell people you're not going to do that and then you do, there's nothing more guaranteed to get the ire of the public. And also, we've got this. Well, at the moment, Saturn's gone back into Pisces, obviously, but in February, it's going to come back again to the conjunction with Neptune. And we've got this Neptune opposing Uranus, which I think kind of reflects the UK government's position in many ways, because they're trying to move forward with all these plans, but they're being mired and bogged down all the time. Every time they try and move forward, something happened, you know, whether it was like, obviously we just had Angela Rayner having to resign the other week, who was a housing minister over a housing scandal or housing issue. And now we've had obviously Peter Mandelson having to resign as our foreign secretary. As our ambassador to America. So that's another one that's marred. And it just seems that Starmer just seems to stumble from one problem to another. He's had so many different issues that have come up. So yeah, there's a lot of disquiet within the Labour backbenches about all that. So I think when that hit comes back again, Saturn opposes Uranus. It'll be interesting how that develops in February when that comes back to the UK chart.
Yeah.
And we've also got, as Liz was mentioning, obviously the Saturn-Pluto square as well going on. So that's another thing. I'll maybe just move to the professional chart, though, if you give me that one again. So
The
again,
one before?
no,
No,
solar
no.
arcs. No,
Oops.
we'll get there.
Wait a minute. This
That's
is fraction. Yeah, this
I
one.
think it was the one you showed initially.
This one.
I don't know. I can't
You're
see
not
it.
sharing. You're not sharing, Rod.
I'm not sharing. Oops. Oh,
You're doing
yes.
you're
Sorry.
doing my thing here.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
famous for this.
Here we are.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay, so that's the professional chart. So it's interesting because again, it's picking up what Liz was saying earlier. It's a ninth house professional year we're in for the UK chart, which picks up all we've just been talking about, all the legal matters that are going on, all the issue. And I mean, obviously, this Palestine action issue is one of the big ones, which will roll on, no doubt, as these people face court cases and all the rest of it. But we've also had the other big theme probably this year, which has been immigration, which has been a massive issue. All over the summer, we've had people demonstrating outside of asylum hotels and demonstrating against that. And so the immigration issue, although it's not exactly new, has seemed to move to a kind of more, again, a toxic level than just like we were talking about before, about the Pluto-Jupiter opposition, moved to quite a toxic level. A lot of people have been flying English flags outside asylum hotels, which is, you know, not a nice kind of thing to be giving to people that are they're trying to get processed as asylum seekers, to be told, you know, what I mean, and I generally I just sort of think about people putting up English flags all over the country in different places. So that's been another sort of nationalist kind of thing. And of course, the other big theme, which is a ninth house theme as well, going back to Palestine, is in a couple of weeks, probably, we'll see what the UK government actually does about Palestine. Is it going to recognise Palestine as a state? And as Liz again was saying earlier about the Balfour Declaration, Britain was the country that originally created Palestine, or as a mandate, and obviously gave the Jews a very special place in that by saying it was a homeland for the Jews, although other minorities would be respected, but it was a homeland for them. So this would be quite a reversal of Britain's historic foreign policy, which has been kind of very close to Israel. So obviously we'd have Canada and probably France as well doing the same thing. So that's another ninth house sort of professional theme that's been going on. And in the professional chart, they move a bit faster, the planets here, because it's a 12-year cycle. So in the professional cycle, we've got the sun just on Uranus at the moment, or about to be. So it'll be interesting. That could be part of that significant change. And maybe some other surprises ahead of us as well. And sun obviously about to later on square the MC, but that's a wee bit further away. Also in the solar arcs, as I'll finish with the solar arcs, I could go on, but there's just too much time up. Yeah, in the solar arcs, we've got what we have the Uranus. It's just been conjuncting the Mars, which kind of again fits all this kind of atmosphere we've had, febrile atmosphere we've had in the country about immigration and obviously Palestine action stuff, demonstrations on the streets, public getting onto the streets generally in a lot of different ways and demonstrating in different ways. And we've also got, you know, not very nice looking. We've got Pluto about to conjunct the south node of the chart as well by solar arc as well. And if we're looking just a wee bit further ahead, we've got Saturn's that's probably about 4 years ahead. We've got Saturn on the descendant, which makes me wonder about 4 years from now, maybe the next general election. A Saturnian theme to that, maybe. Who knows? Who knows? And then Sun's going to be on Saturn in about 3 years. So I don't know. That could indicate, well, it could indicate a lot of things, obviously, but
Yeah.
it could indicate that that we've got a Saturnian influence taking over at that point. Which I won't say what party that could be. I'll leave you to kind of speculate what that could be.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it,
yeah.
to see that, Mark? You know,
Yeah.
so you know, since the formation actually of the United Kingdom, the 1801 chart, this is the first time that the sun is moving into that area of the chart, which is, you know, becoming less visible in the world, if you know what I mean, because it had a big role in the EU for a lot of years. It played Saturn role, you know, within the EU, being a bit of a drag in a lot of ways, but it's definitely coming down slowly down into the 12th house area of the chart. So, you know, it's like maybe pigeon comes, you know, the pigeons come home to roost time a little bit. It's definitely a different phase than all of this expansionist stuff that was going on when Britain was expanding its empire and becoming, you know, this global success story, you could say, you know. It's sort of slowly coming into this area now of the chart, if
Well,
you
I
know
think
what I
the UK,
mean.
as we know, is coming to an end anyway in about 10,
Yeah,
12
yeah,
years.
something
I
going
don't think
on,
it'll
isn't
survive
there?
in the current format anyway. So, I mean, Ireland's moving gradually to
Definitely, yeah, yeah. And
that way. In
Scotland,
Scotland may well very. I mean, if Farage ever becomes prime minister, that would be the final.
Julie.
That would be the
Yeah.
final deal that would finish off the
yeah.
UK. I don't think Scotland would tolerate having Farage as prime minister.
No, he's
Julie.
definitely appealing to the Pluto in Aquarius thing, though, isn't he? You know, sort of
Yeah.
tapping into a certain dissatisfied group of the populace that haven't been seen and you know, raising them, creating a kind of a storm. But he's got really no policies. He's like a bit like Geert Wilders over here, you know, one-liners, and none of it is there's any real chance of it, you know, being able to go anywhere. It's just hot air in a way. But he's a very dangerous figure, Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
Very dangerous figure. You know,
Julie,
Mm.
sorry, Julie, you have any comment?
I keep seeing Neptune. In this chart, it's Neptune in Gemini in the 9th house. To me, that is screaming Nigel Farage. And then you have it in the previous chart. It was Neptune in Leo in the 10th house. You can see it right there. I mean, it's exactly what you said, Liz. He is an illusion. He is someone who doesn't necessarily have substance to him. He spouts vision, but there's nothing actually grounding to back him up. You know, I mean, he's often described by people who are less favorable to him as a grifter, and you know, it's hard to
Yeah.
disagree with that. The
Yeah.
biggest piece that I
What does
find,
that mean? I don't know what that word means.
so a grifter is someone who, you know, as Liz was saying, is going to be scamming you, basically. He's a
All right,
scammer.
okay.
He's a
Right,
scammer.
okay.
Snake oil salesman, Mark.
Yeah, snake oil salesman. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
more.
There you
Yeah.
go. But
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the idea of him going to America to ask the US Congress to sanction the UK, how is that not seen as traitorous?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't understand.
What was that? So what was he doing?
He went to America and
Yeah.
sat in front of the American Congress to ask them to put sanctions on the UK.
Oh, I didn't know that. But I tell you
Heard
one
that.
thing about him, he came to power or first started his rise on the back of the 1999 Grand Cross eclipse. That was when he entered the European Parliament. And his first speech at the European Parliament was in June 1999, so July 1999, and he said he was going to get Britain out of the EU, and he bloody well did. You know what I mean? So he is a snake oil salesman, but I think he's a very dangerous political figure, personally. I find him really dangerous.
He's a very
Yeah.
he's an astute political opportunist because whenever there's anything, he just
Yeah.
dives in there and tries to take
Yeah.
advantage of it at any opportunity, which, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately, you know, someone like Starmer is not very good
No.
at kind of picking up the
No.
public mood, really. So that's unfortunate because he's not able to really
Well,
deal with them properly.
I have to say, I have to discuss this morning. I was thinking, well, luckily, to be honest, luckily we have experience of Boris Johnson. So Boris Johnson is like a vaccine. Boris Johnson is like a vaccine. So we all know what type of person this person can cause, what kind of result, what kind of result, and what kind of thing. So when we face to Farage, we're like, I know what are you going to do, I know what are you going to say, but how many things are you going to accomplish?
That's a
We
good
really don't
movie.
know.
I like that.
Sorry about that. But well, all of those shadow, great and the storm news, and more to come. I know more's coming. But I think I want to remind all of us we have Jupiter, Saturn conjunct in Aquarius, Pluto in Aquarius. Remember that mythology, one of mythology about Aquarius, that Pandora's box, that face, keep them in the box, because no matter what happened, we have to keep going on and hold that face. So I decide to pass this next stage to Anna, because Anna going to tell us a little bit more about the belief and the face story that recently happened. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you. I will go here. Okay. Please let me know if you see it.
Yeah.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So we recently have this news about this canonization of two saints, two younger ones, Carlo Acutis and Pier Giorgio Frassati. And well, they died very young. They died very young. And the curious things about the adjectives that are used for these saints, at least for Carlo Acutis, as the God's influencer, the first millennial saint, which call attention of the world. So let's see how these charts, the Vatican and the charts of each saint, happen in the time. So to become a saint is a process that is not overnight. First, you become servant of God according to those requisites that I won't read them. But first, you become servant of God. Then, according to certain investigation, the person comes to be venerable. And then after more investigation, one miracle has to be attributed to that person, so he become blessed. And after that, the canonization is a second miracle after beatification, we become saint. So this is not a process that is done overnight. It may take a long time, and in fact, it took a long time at least for Frassati. So if we compare here this timeline for both saints, Giorgio Frassati was born in 1901 and he became saint in this year. So it took more than 100 years to make it happen. And in case of Carlos Acuti, he was born in 1991. Well, he passes many things, and now he is the saint that it was the fastest to become saint, the fastest one. Okay, which is curious is that this canonization happens in the lunar eclipse. And the metonic cycle of this eclipse happened in 2006, which is the year of the death of Acutis. Okay, so with differences, 90 years of birth, at the end they became saint in the same day. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the Aries Ingress of the Vatican City, without going into details. I want to pay attention to this Pluto very close to the cusp of the ninth house, which is telling us that something about something that is transformational about the belief system, or the marketing, with all respect, the marketing of the Vatican will be very prominent in these years. Just to pay attention to this. So the lunar eclipse cast for Vatican City, we have here that the moon is in the 12th house, and this degree is with the fixed star Ashernar, and in which I wanted to know about this star. You can see the size of this. This is the sun. This is the fixed star Ashernar. It's very huge. And what it says in this source is that it gives us in public office, beneficence, and religion. And well placed, it promotes happiness and success by giving good morals, faithful adherence to one's religious belief or philosophical inclination. According to the tradition, a Shernar is credited with bestowing high offices in the church, especially if conjunct with Jupiter. But taking that meaning, we can say that is something good for the religion area. So maybe it matches with the event that we are discussing now. So this is a chart of Vatican City. And of course, I could not help but putting out asteroids. So the asteroids, the asteroid that I will use only two of them is the Viat for beatification and Canon for canonization. And let's see how it plays. But of course, the planets are always the first to be checked. And of course, the asteroid Vaticana. We can see here that during the lunar eclipse, Venus and Vaticana were together in 14 of Leo in contact with Mars. It's sharp. You can see here the transits with Mars and Pluto with the vertex. And well, in the degree of the Virgo was the asteroid Canon between the Sun and Mercury. It was place in that area. Beatification here, but I will continue. Okay, so when I see here, sorry, I cannot see it. Yes, when it happens, the beatification of Giorgio Frassati, what happens in the 1990, the Sun and Jupiter were together, and the asteroid beatification was in trine with Jupiter as well. And Saturn, pay attention to this planet, transiting Saturn was in opposition to the asteroid beatification. When happens the beatification of Carlo Acutis that happens in 2020, again, Saturn, transiting Saturn was again in opposition to this asteroid. But the asteroid beatification was in contact with the Sun and the Moon of the Vatican City. And other contact as well, Uranus and Chiron with Uranus, both together. Talking about Carlos Acutis, that he was very savvy in the internet, and the network. So Uranus here is very important in this transit chart. So let's start talking about San Pier Giorgio Frassati, which is the one of the saints. We can see here his picture. He used to climb mountains. He used to climb mountains, and we can see here smoking. Smoking. Yeah. So it is very interesting, this event, because these two saints are provide us a different vision of what a saint is now. No, because we tend to see this a saint that was born very far away, or he died very far away. No, so no, these are much more closer, and doing maybe typical things as any human. So we can see here he liked to climb because he stated that climbing was getting close to God, and he used to smoke. Okay, so this is the his biography. He was born in Italy, and his mother was a painter, and his father was the founder and director of the La Stampa. So he was he came from a very prominent, rich family. And well, at the early age, he received the communion, which was very rare, and he dedicated his time to serve the sick, the needy, the orphan, etc. He decided to become a mining engineer, and the mountain climbing was one of his favorite sports. And then he contracted poliomyelitis, and he died at the age of 24. And he was beatified and then canonized. So in the mountains of the Patagonia, in the Andes, between Chile and Argentina, there is a mountain called Pier Giorgio, which is named after Pier Giorgio Frassati. Because this person liked to climb, so one of the mountains is dedicated to him, named after him. Okay, so this is the chart of the Giorgio Frassati. I don't have the birth time, but I put the transits of the death, of his death. We can see here that when he died, well, Jupiter was in contact with Saturn and Jupiter. The moon could vary with Uranus, Saturn with the moon. The moon may change, but they are here. And the asteroid beatification with Lily and Vatican with Venus. The same degree. 9, 9, the same degree. And the asteroid canonization of that time was in 12 of Taurus, which is the son of Carlo Acutis. When Frassati was beatified, well, the contacts were Neptune and Uranus in contact with Saturn, Jupiter, and Vaticana with Mercury, and the Sun in contact with the asteroid Beati and the South Dot. It trine with beatification asteroid, transitive beatification asteroid. When he was canonized, which happens in during the eclipse, well, the normal was in with Mercury, and there are many contrast trines, and we can see here that is very interesting because Mercury was very close to the asteroid canonization, and Vaticana together here, as I mentioned, and created a trine with his Sun and the asteroid canonization and Uranus here. Okay. The other saint, Carlo Acutis, this is the image that is very powerful and very new. No? It's a saint that is with blue jeans, very, very typical of the millennium. So he died when he was 15. He used to work with the network. He was very savvy in internet. So he was born in 1991 in London, and the parents were Italian. The mother is still alive. And he was a computer genius, and they moved to Milan, and he attended to a Catholic school, and he received his communion at the age of 7 because it was very early for the typical time. And he visited the places, and he mentioned that those places were a highway to heaven. And he liked Assisi, and he expressed his desire to be buried there before he died. And he had a leukemia, and he died very quickly in October of 2006. There are a couple of miracles from Brazil and Costa Rica attributed to the intercession of Carlo Acutis, and he was canonized in September. So this is the chart. I obtained a birth hour with this source of Maurice Fernandez and John Marchesella. I observed that they casted the chart with this birth time. So I follow that information. Which is curious is that the chart of Acutis has the asteroid canonization very close to the midheaven. Very close to the midheaven. And he has Jupiter very close to the ascendant, which is the ruler of the ninth house. So this system, the belief systems about religion, etc., very close to his personality. And when he died, the asteroid Vaticana was very close to the Jupiter. Jupiter with Pluto, and when he died, this is amazing. The Sun and the asteroid, yes, the asteroid. Sorry. Yes, the asteroid beatification were together, and Mercury and canonization together as well, and Pluto with vertex and Chiron with Saturn, which is the ruler of the 8th house, and our Neptune was close as well. When Acutis was beatified, again, Vaticana with Jupiter again. Here, Jupiter canonization and Pluto together with this Uranus and Neptune, and Uranus with the Sun, Mars with Mercury, and Chiron with the canonization asteroid. Sorry, you should say here Acutis. When he was canonized, well, the asteroid beatification was with Vaticana, and Jupiter created this contact with Mars and Chiron and South Node. He had Chiron and South Node very in a very tight orb. And then, well, this asteroid that I mentioned in trine with the Sun, and yes, and Venus and Vatican are together with a trine to the midheaven. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. It's always interesting to see this how asteroid work, and that is like that is the kind of fascinating things. And when we read that part of the chart, but very interesting. Have we noticed? Coincidentally, today we talk about 2 millennium. They are being stunned, like, to be honest. This Acutis and then this Charlie Kirk in almost 2 years after, and then he been martyred. He been a martyr for what he believed. That's a very interesting with that Uranus Neptune conjunction generation.
As well. I saw it as well.
Yeah.
That generation is coming through now. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Because just a little thing, no, because I think that in eclipses, Mercury is always close to the sun or moon, so they will participate. But this time, Mercury has been prominent because nowadays is in contrastation with Mars. Okay, and that's one factor. And the other thing is that it was only millennial, the saints, Charlie Kirk, but also ministers. We mentioned about the Nepal, the ministers, in France, the ministers, and young people dying or
symbolic.
Yes, I think that Mercury is a planet that is now in the paramount somehow, and with a special meaning and bringing a lot of information about about this planet.
Luisa.
Sorry.
What I was going to say is that his killer, Charles Kirk killer, and Luis Maggioni are also the same age.
Yeah.
Luigi, so they already have, it's another generation. It's the Pluto in Sagittarius generation.
Yeah. Well, I really don't want to recognize it. Well, we are already another generation. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I mean, today we managed to cover so many topics, and then with so many interesting topics and very in-depth insight. So thanks everyone. Thank you, Luisa. Thank you, Grace, to be here. I have to mention Grace was prepared something, but it was a little bit late. So I say, you know what, we hold it for next time, because we really curious about that 3 person, like Putin, Xi, and Kim Jong-un stand together. What does that mean? And Grace was diving a little bit, but I think it's a little bit late, so we will move it to next time. All right. Thank you, Fernando. Thank you, Julie and Elise and Maria, especially. Maria, thank you so much with this interesting topic. Mark, thank you always for your great work, and also Anna, always thank you. And thanks everyone. Please remember, come back next month. We are going to have more interesting issue to bring to you, and that 20th of September, just one day before the solar eclipse, AOA UK, we host our solar eclipse workshop. Please welcome to join us. Also, I want to announce soon we will have our AOA Academy of Astrology online conference in December. And we have like 2 different tracks. One is for the forecasting technique, and one track would be the mundane astrology. And so this year, half part of our Mundane Astrology team will come up to speak in a Mundane Astrology track, and then half part will race for next year. So, well, thanks everyone, but everyone will be invited to join the discussion, okay? So thanks everyone, and looking forward to see you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.